everybody, Ethan here. Just a little background before we get started in the video. Today's video is a conversation with Paul Bearman, host of the Talking About the Who podcast. He came on all the way in March. I did a string of shows in March um, uh, to do like a set of Fisher Protocol shows, and then I got lazy in editing. And then in June, me and my family were in a pretty bad car wreck, and we've kind of been recovering since then. I was all ready to go, and I was editing this video, and then my show in Philadelphia that I really wanted to see got postponed, and so I got really down. The show is rescheduled, and it is tomorrow, and I'm actually very happy and very, very excited. I'm actually going with Tom. The plan is to go with Tom and my son tomorrow to Philadelphia to see The Who. It might be today when I release this, I might be going. I don't know, but Paul does an amazing podcast. I'm sure you've seen it. It's called Talking About the Who. He's got a video channel. He just has a second interview with Jody Linscott. Some of the stuff we talk about on this has already happened because he did it in March. He actually came on because we were going to go track by Who Are You? And we did that as well. That's why the ending is kind of like there's no proper goodbye. There's no really proper mention of that. Hopefully, I plan to get that out at sometime after the concert, but before the release of the new Who Are You, hopefully he'll either come back on here or I'll go on his channel and we will talk about the differences and what we liked and what we didn't like. It's prime time right now in Wholand. We're all very happy. We're all very excited. They're doing great. There has been this big disappointment with cancellation of shows. The whole Zach situation is not pretty. Of course, I feel it's only right to mention it. But you know, it is what it is. I hope you guys like this video. I hope you get a chance to see the band. Thank you for listening and enjoy the video. Bye.
I guess we'll get started. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Fisher Protocol, a channel dedicated to the world's greatest rock and roll band, The Who. This band is a shared passion of ours, and these discussions are more of a personal journey than a critical review. Also, no money is made from these videos. So please let us know we're not alone in Wholand by taking a quick second to like, subscribe, and share with your Who-minded friends. Constructive feedback is always welcome in the comments below. We don't claim to be experts, just fans of the world's greatest rock and roll band, The Who. Betts is here. Tom couldn't make it. That's okay. Today on the show, we have the host of the Talking About the Who podcast, which just finished its first season with such Who luminaries as Chris Charlesworth, Matt Kent, Jody Linscott, and us. Welcome to the show, Paul Bearman. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
We're great. How are you?
I'm good. I said this to a friend before who does a YouTube channel, but I kind of feel like I've been dragged out from watching my telly and pulled into the Fisher Protocol. So,
how is it in here? Is it like Pleasantville? What's going on?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I've wanted to come on your channel for a while, to be honest. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
This is one off the bucket list.
Oh, really? Great. Awesome. As soon as I saw the ad for your show, I was like, oh man, I want to be on that. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So, later on, we're going to talk to Paul. Paul's going to stay for a while, and we're going to go track by track by the album Who Are You? This is actually going to be one video. I was going to break it into two, but it's going to be one. But first, we're going to talk to Paul. And just like for people that are so in deep that they're watching the Fisher Protocol and listening to talk about the Who, if there's anybody that's doing both of those things, we're going to be covering a lot of ground we've already covered on both places. But, you know, that's fine. So, Paul, we always start these things by... as you know, we would ask, I always got asked when I was a young raver and or person about the world who would always wear a badge or a jacket patch or something. And they would see it on me all the time. People would see it on me all the time. They would always go, why the Who? Like, well, I don't have an answer for that. I didn't choose the Who chose me. So as we do here, I need you to tell us, please, for everyone, what, when and how did the Who choose you?
I think the way you put it, when did the Who choose you, is definitely applies to me because I can't actually remember the moment I first saw or heard the Who because I was so young. So I'd have been 2 or 3 years old. So I started stupidly early. But just to give a little bit of context, I basically didn't sleep for the first 5 years of my life. So my mum would get me out of bed. I'd sit on her lap. I'd fidget. I wouldn't sit still. But one night, possibly 82 or 83. So as I said, I was 2 or 3 years old. Um, I don't know if you're familiar in the States with the old grey whistle test music show in the
Yes.
UK.
Yes.
So they used to do this thing sometimes. They'd have programs running all through the night on the BBC until the early hours. And it was called Rock Around the Clock. And one night they were showing a Jimi Hendrix film from 1973, I think it is. And according to my mum, this was the first time I ever sat still in my life, just transfixed with watching this Hendrix film. And I think the Who closely followed that. So yeah, I was into music very, very early. Probably more footage rather than the actual music. But like I said, I can't remember the moment I first saw or heard the Who, but I know when I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, there'd be certain things, and like it, probably most kids, I would watch the same things again and again and again. So they would have included The Kids Were Alright was definitely something I would have watched a lot of because we had that on VHS in the house or the flat where we lived. There would have been the Who Rocks America video, which was the Toronto gig, the last one.
Mm-hmm.
It was meant to be the last one at the time from '82.
Yeah.
There's another UK show called the South Bank Show, which used to be on Sunday nights, like an arts program, and they'd have features on writers, actors, musicians, things like that. And there was one episode about Pete Townsend from 1985 when White City was coming out. So that was something we recorded and I'd watch all the time. So yeah, they were the main things I remember from childhood. And then I would get given records and cassettes for my birthday and for Christmas. And I wasn't interested in the albums. It was more, I just wanted records with the Who on them. So I've got a lot of cheap greatest hits imports in my collection because of that.
Yeah.
But then, and then, sorry, this is a bit of a long answer. But then in, I think, 1990, when satellite TV was first appeared in the UK, the street we lived on had one satellite dish for the whole street. And one night they showed the Tommy 89 special on Sky One. So that was again was something I recorded and watched continuously. Oh, and Live Aid was something I was very excited about when I was a kid, knowing that the Who were going to be on that. And then I think it was 94 when the box set came out. That's when I started to buy Who CDs. And then when the remixed albums came out, that's when I really got interested in the actual albums, like Quadrophenia, Who Are You, Who's Next, etc. Because on that box set there was a lot of stuff I'd not heard before, like Guitar and Pen, something I wasn't familiar with. Daddy Rolling Stone, I think, was something I'd heard for the first time then. Yeah, so for me, it's having said all that, and the Who have always been my favorite band. I don't consider myself a hardcore fan, and I've said this on my podcast, but I've never set out to see them whenever they tour every time. I don't even know all the albums. I don't think I know It's Hard. I couldn't tell you how, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you how 3/4 of the songs go on that. But they've always been there, literally since the beginning. So I kind of feel a deep connection with the band and the members that I can't explain, if you excuse the pun. And I can't even tell you why I like the music necessarily. It's just because they've always been there. It's literally ingrained in me. And I do wonder if that's why I'm not a hardcore fan, because it's almost like I didn't need to be, because they were always going to be there, safe in my heart, if you like, or in my mind. So yeah, that's how it started in a nutshell.
But was there ever a time when like any lyrics specifically or anything like that spoke to you?
I actually knew a lot of the lyrics when I was a kid because I had this book called A Decade of the Who, which I think came out in '77, but I'd somehow got a copy of this, and it literally had all the printed lyrics, and it had a lot of the chords in there as well. So it's something I used to. So I would literally just sit and read the lyrics sometimes instead of actually listening along with the music. So, but whether they actually spoke to me, I think maybe as I've gotten older, they probably relate. I can relate to the lyrics maybe a bit more. particularly something like Tommy, I think on one level you could see it as this weird psychedelic 60s story about this kid who becomes deaf, dumb, and blind, and then is cured and becomes a messiah figure. But I think, on the other hand, you could see it as a story of inner turmoil. And I was talking to Chris Charlesworth about this on the podcast, but I kind of, out of the blue, it occurred to me that Tommy and Quadrophenia are pretty much the same story, I think. Um, so yeah, I think the lyrics, relate to them more as I get older, I think. But when I was a
Hmm.
kid, maybe I did relate to them on a subconscious level without realizing it, maybe. But to be honest, I can't think of anything that really sort of stood out and meant anything.
Yeah.
Um, it was more, I guess, the band itself meant something to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Um, what if you had to pick your favorite album of the rock and roll band, The Who?
Um,
What would
I've
it be,
always,
and why is it Quadrophenia?
wow, you read my mind.
Uh,
Um, yeah, I think I've always thought it was Quadrophenia. Um, I think I really got into Quadrophenia when I was about 16, around that
Hmm.
age. And yeah, I think I've always maybe related to the lyrics in Quadrophenia, um, as I probably 99.9% of the world would relate to it. But I think it's such a good album, even the Who couldn't play it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've always thought Quadrophenia was my favorite, but sometimes I wonder if it's actually Who's Next. But I don't know. It's one of those two. Uh, I'll say Quadrophenia for now, but if you ask me tomorrow, I'd probably say Who's Next.
is this the book you were talking about?
That's the one.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Wait, I don't have that one. Okay.
I
Yeah. I guess I need to find one.
I think
My sister, shout out to my sister-in-law Rachel, who like scours things all year for Christmas for people, right? And
Yeah.
she like she would she a couple years in a row she scored at this bookstore she goes to, and she found this. She's like, he probably has it, but I'll buy it again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that one.
it's funny because I was thinking about that book recently and I thought it was lost forever. I had no idea where it was. And I was at my mum's house a couple of weeks ago and she just said, "Is this yours?" Yes. I don't have to buy it on eBay. It's there. It still exists.
I've rebought Who books on eBay. I rebought the Tommy Broadway book on eBay
Hmm.
um for like $6. Like $6. Anyway, hey, you have a podcast. It's called Talking About the Who. I would like to hear uh the genesis of that, of you starting your own podcast, and yeah, let us know how that began.
Yeah, it's kind of got a bit of a dark beginning actually, but in 2020 when COVID was going on, I ended up in hospital with a stupidly high temperature, and I'd been ill for a few days. At first, I thought it was a hangover from drinking,
Hmm.
and then when the hangover hadn't gone after a few days and my temperature was skyrocketing, I thought this isn't a hangover. But anyway, I ended up in hospital, and I'd picked up a virus which had caused my temperature to skyrocket. But while I was in there, they discovered I was suffering from chronic leukemia. Um, so I was in hospital for a little while, then was sent home, recuperating for a while, and then ended up going back to work for a few months. But then going back to that stressful situation and kind of feeling vulnerable, it was making me feel ill, and I thought this isn't good for me. So I took some time and I thought it was an opportunity to work out what I really wanted to do in my life and kind of turn this negative into a positive. And one thing I decided I wanted to try was podcasting because I'd done a radio show in the past, and um, I've done plenty of gigs over the years as a musician, so I'm used to putting myself out there. So I thought, yeah, I want to give podcasting a go, and spent a few years, maybe a year or two, sort of deciding what sort of podcast do I want to do, and always thought I'd love to do a podcast about something like the Who. I mean, I'm obviously not going to do that, but I'd love to be able to do it. And then one day I think I was at my dad's flat watching a Who video on YouTube, and I just turned around to my girlfriend and said, maybe I should make a Who podcast. And it kind of dawned on me that I didn't know of anyone else who was doing anything like this. I discovered you guys soon afterwards,
Yeah.
and thought, those guys have got the YouTube side of things covered. But apart from Mark Withersea doing that season of discography about the Who, I wasn't aware of any other podcasts. And I thought, well, maybe I should make it. So that was basically it. And I thought, I was slightly worried that I wasn't the expert that maybe Who fans would want to present something like that. But then it kind of dawned on me that that should be the angle of the podcast. I thought I have enough knowledge to be able to do something like this. I know who the people I need to speak to and everything else, but it should be my journey as well as being about the Who. It should be my deep dive, trying to get to know my favorite band more, because there's so much I don't know. Excuse me. And yeah, that was kind of the reason for it. And I really have learned so much than I knew before I started. So that's basically, the reason I started it. And I'm still amazed now that no one else has. Sorry, I'm just sorting out the power for my laptop. But I'm still amazed now that no one else is doing a Who podcast or has ever done one, apart from, like I said, apart from you guys on YouTube and Mark Withersea with discography.
And I also think that I don't know if audience feels this way, but I know I feel this way, and I think you feel this way. And let me know if I'm wrong. Like, on some level, we're always going to have this handicap of not being around when Keith Moon was around, right? Like,
Wait.
what was your first Who concert, Bets?
Oh, okay. First Who concert was 82.
All right.
So I didn't actually see him perform, but I
Right.
was around.
Right, but you weren't aware of the Who as a thing.
I was aware of the Who, and I was aware of Keith Moon. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But when we came into our fandom, and none of us were, that we were not able to see him live.
Right.
And so there's always going to be, I think, some kind of I don't know if it's looking down my older Who fans. I don't think it's looking down, but it's just like, there's a lot of people that aren't going to be interested in the takes of the people that haven't been around for that. And that's okay, but if we're for the late comers, the late bloomers, that's fine. You know what I mean? And why I started this was to like fill holes in the in our Who knowledge, and I can't wait to hear what you say when you listen to It's Hard in detail, because everybody wants to hear that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I really have got a bit of a soft spot for face dances.
Yeah.
So I have heard It's Hard, but I'm not. Like I said, I'm not familiar with it. But I do need to.
Which is weird because people so put those albums, like, clump them together, right?
Right.
The Kenny Jones era, right?
But here's the thing about that was that the reviews at the time were very complimentary of that record, and so I think there's some revisionism now that that people say, like, oh, it was really not that good, but it was like, but at the time it like I said, it garnered a bunch of good reviews. It was a powerhouse, and I'll point that out a little bit later, that it had its modicum of a success.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I think it goes into this. I think it goes into this thing where it's like, what were the Who in 1980 or 81, right? Like, and what was the goal after Keith passed away? And I get into that a little bit later with some stuff. It's always a fascinating, weird thing for me, because I was looking at some video last night, and I'm just not seeing dudes that are doing this thing for the joy of doing it. It's kind of weird, right? So, but we'll get into that today.
Just quickly, I think another thing about It's Hard that's always worth bearing in mind is that it's got Eminence front on it, and probably a lot of people would maybe even consider that one of their favorite Who songs. So that's something to be said for it. At least it's got that on it.
Which is weird because it doesn't sound like any other Who song.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
It's definitely got that groove.
I thought it was the most dance influential song until I had some last night journey on the YouTube.
Mm.
Probably talk about that later too. So uh
Can I just quickly also
yeah.
add one last thing to my childhood story about the Who?
Oh yeah.
Because you mentioned Keith Moon, it reminded me of a story my mum told me. So I had a toy drum kit when I was a kid, and it had an inflatable seat, a Danger Mouse inflatable seat. I don't know if you do you have Danger Mouse in the
Yes.
US? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Penfold, we do.
I knew I should have worn my Penfold glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's massive Danger Mouse inflatable seat and this drum kit I could literally sit at and play. And my mum told me that after watching, which I can only assume was the kids were all right, I actually destroyed the drum kit. I smashed it to pieces.
As well you should have. Oh, back to the podcast though. You started it. How have you found you first season? Tell us about, some of the guests you had on it and tell us about how it went.
Overall, I was really pleased with it. It's only 8 episodes. It was supposed to be 10, but there were 2 guests that I'll tell you one of them. I might tell you the other one later as well, why they're not on there. But Shell Talmy was supposed to be a guest, and he died literally the week I was supposed to interview him.
Yeah.
I guess he really didn't want to do it then.
Yeah, I mean, as excuses go, it's a poor one, but there you go. But no, I'm really pleased with how it's gone, and I've got to be honest, I'm kind of amazed at some of the people who said yes to being on it.
Mhm.
Because it had taken me a long time to kind of figure out what the podcast should look like, and it went through
Yeah.
2 or 3 ideas, and I was working on those ideas, and each time I thought, no, it's not right, I need to start again. And it took literally 2 years to get from the initial idea to releasing episode 1.
Yeah.
But I think literally one day it was the thought of, I need to grow a pair of balls and just message some of these people connected to the Who and try and get interviews. And I did that on a Friday afternoon, and literally by Saturday morning, Irish Jack had messaged me back, and I couldn't believe it. And that's one person I knew of, Irish Jack, but starting this podcast, I really didn't know half the stuff that I've learned about him since then, just how important he was really to the Who story, I guess, and how close he was with the band, or I guess still is with the band.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tony Fletcher's been a guest. He replied to my email within days. Chris Charlesworth came straight back to me. Jodie Linscott came straight back to me. Matt Kent, yeah, as you mentioned, Matt Kent was a guest, as he was on your show. It took a bit longer to get him, so I think he disappeared from social media for a while. And he was actually the first person I messaged. He was the person I really wanted to get on there the most. I think I just, because I saw him on your channel, I thought I had a feeling I'd get on with him. I think that's what he came across as such a cool guy.
Very warm,
Delightful. Yeah.
delightful man. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's from a different side of London to me, but that doesn't matter. But yeah, so I eventually managed to get Matt Kent on. Yeah, I'll say now, as it's you guys, Matt Kent was a 2-parter because we literally spoke for about 2.5 hours. And there was originally going to be another last episode, which was supposed to be, I had the interview booked, and because of the LA wildfires, this person had to be evacuated from their home and holed up in a hotel for weeks on end.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to happen for season 2 because the interview's been rebooked, and that's Mandy, Keith's daughter.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
nice. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm really excited about that. But that was supposed to be the finale of season 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that would definitely be a person that I would be way too scared to message. I don't know why. It's basically this human construct of anxiety, or the worst a person can say is no kind of thing. So but yeah, it's like a silly thing. Like, either gonna say yes or they're gonna say no. But yeah, that happens. You know what I mean? So, and how is your listenership, your popularity? Do you have a audience now?
I think it's higher than I was expecting. It's but
Where you
probably
at?
for podcast standards, it's probably not that high. But for my expectations, it's very high.
What is it at? Do you mind saying us, or you don't want to?
I think it's had about 2,500 listens overall so
That's
far.
good.
That's for
Great.
for getting it started, and that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if a lot of that is, like I was saying, because no one else is doing a Who podcast. Could that be one of the reasons? But it kind of has felt like a bit of momentum has built up, and I was slightly worried about having to end season 1 while there was that momentum, but it's just not something I could do continuously. It needs to have a break, and
that's literally how it goes. The thing I've learned here is you have to take, you can't run yourself into the ground, or you're just not gonna
Right.
carry on.
and
Yeah.
I have messaged some people who haven't actually replied to me, and it's weird because it's getting to the point where it feels totally normal to. And I sometimes literally sit and laugh to myself. I think one particular day, I had to email Chris Charlesworth about something. I received an email from Matt Kent, and I received something in the post from Irish Jack. And I just laughed. I thought, this is my life now, and it's surreal. It's still really surreal. And
These people that you read about and all, and like they're real people.
yeah,
And they're talking to me.
exactly.
Like, and they wrote, and they wrote most of the things you're talking about too, or the stuff
Right.
you have at home or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
like I said to you, I watched that Tommy special when I was 10 years old, and so I've known Jodie Linscott since then. And talking to her on the phone was just surreal. And just I've got her phone number in my phone. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation to be in for a Who fan, but there you go.
and I think the truth is that, like, no matter like, let's say there's all of a sudden 10 Who podcasts, there's a certain amount of people that are going to listen to all 10. You know what I mean? No matter what. And
I think that's the other thing for me, because I'd love there to be a Who podcast, but again, apart from what Mark with a C has done and what you guys are doing, there was nothing else. And I'm hoping I'm trying to make the podcast I'd quite like to listen to.
Well, and I think the thing with Mark with a C and with us is, I mean, I think I've told you this before, there's no Englishmen or English people doing them, right? We're all American from our specific American point of view, and so it's I think it's great to have that point of view from someone, because because my next question for you is, like, concerts you've been to. Like, I'm not gonna mince words. You've been to some, like, crazy, like, rage, jealous inducing concerts that you're about to tell us that you've been to of the Who. Look, give us your first concert and give us a couple more that you've been to, because they're just they're legendary as far as I'm concerned.
So my first Who gig was Hyde Park in 1996 when they did Quadrophenia for the Prince's Trust. Yeah, that was quite interesting because it was me, my dad, and some of his friends, and I think Alanis Morissette, Bob Dylan were on before the Who, and then Eric Clapton was on after the Who. But I was only interested in seeing the Who, to be honest. And but we were so far back in Hyde Park that the sound and what was on the screens wasn't syncing up, and I just don't think the technology existed then to be able to do that. So it was slightly surreal, but and the Who were dots on stage, but you could just about make out who each person was, just about. So it was still a great experience, and that was when I was really getting into Quadrophenia as an album as well. So that was really good. And I just finished my GCSE exams, so I was finished school and I was on a bit of a high. So that was a really good time. And then 3 years later, and this is where Ethan is going to want to kill me, I was at the second night at Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Rage. Oh my God. You were at the Blues and the Bush. All right.
But what's crazy is that I remember reading a newspaper maybe a month or two before, and where they kind of announced the concert. And then I think my mum rang up to get tickets, because I went to it with my mum, so it wasn't really cool. But she rang up, bought the tickets, and we went. I don't
Yeah.
remember it being difficult to get a ticket. If it was now, if they did that, it'd probably sell out in a minute.
Uh-huh.
But I still maintain that was my favorite ever gig I've been to, just to be that close to the Who.
Yeah.
And when they first walked on stage, the goosebumps were just immense. And they were doing stuff like they did Pure and Easy, they did I'm a Boy, Happy Jack, Getting in Tune.
They did Happy Jack?
Yeah, they did Happy Jack. And
Oh.
what's your swearing policy on this channel?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. So they did
Like I said before, we're not monetized and we never have been. So
Yeah.
fucking let it go.
Cool. Yeah, they did Boris the Spider as well. But yeah, my abiding memory of Happy Jack is that it got to the end of the song and the audience all shouted out, "I saw ya!"
Oh yeah.
And then Roger said it to the mic, "Oh, you could have at least shouted, 'I saw ya!'" And someone behind me shouted, "We did shout it, Roger, you deaf cunt."
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do something we've never done before, and it might not stay in or not. I've never seen this video. We're gonna watch a video real quick
Okay.
that I just saw on YouTube. So let me you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Did somebody request Magic Bus? I can do Happy Jack. Let's do Happy Jack.
I've never seen this before. Never seen this before.
The only thing to say is this is the night before I went. This isn't the actual one I was at, but
Okay.
it's
We haven't fucking rehearsed anything. Let's do it. I've been far too busy at Antigua to rehearse. That's the only reason I showed you the chest. Got a little suntan. I got the fucking flu. Well, no, I've got the flu. I've got a cold.
This is cool. I'm loving this. Amazing. Guys, have you seen this?
So they rode on his back and never
Yeah, they're fucking up left and right. I love it.
That's the best kind of Who.
Have you seen this, Bets?
I've not seen it, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, it's great.
stop Jack all the water and they couldn't prevent Jack from feeling happy. Stop Jack all the water's laughing. They couldn't prevent Jack from feeling happy. It's kind of classical music, that one.
Absolutely priceless.
I'm gonna have to look at that later. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Mexican version, like from the '60s, of that song. Did y'all know that in Spanish?
Oh,
No.
wow.
It's on YouTube. It really lends itself to that sort of conjunto. I definitely check it out. I cannot remember the name of the band, but it's a 60s era band doing it.
Oh, I thought it was the Who, like those like I want to hold your hand in German. You know what I mean?
No, it's an actual Mexican band.
Did you guys see Jojo Rabbit?
No.
Jojo Rabbit is a depressing,
Yeah.
Holocaust movie, but funny. It's Taika Waititi, and all the songs in it are those like German re-recorded versions by the original artists.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also like I Want to Hold Your Hand in German, sung by the Beatles, so it sounds exactly like it,
Yeah.
but in German, and David Bowie, I think, Heroes.
Uh-huh.
But also it's a good movie. Speaking of which, you know, as a Jewish man, I love seeing Pete's yarmulke here. It's great. Must have been cold. Was it cold in that venue at the shows, Paul? Like, do you remember
Oh.
yourself? I don't know how long you've had your current hairstyle, but did you feel the need to wear a head covering?
I think this was before. I mean, I started going bald very, very young. I think I was 23 when I realised I was going bald. So I was 19 at Shepherd's Bush. So I'd have been okay with not wearing headwear, but that's how I can tell which gig was the one I was at, because the one I went to, Townsend wasn't wearing that. So
Yeah.
and he smashed his guitar at that first night as well, apparently.
What were the other songs there? You said, I know Pure and Easy because that's on the Blues to the Bush. I know, which I want to shout out. I think it's Francesca. I I don't want to give out her last name. I think it starts with a W. Because I just don't want to say anybody online. But hopefully she's watching, and she's very she's been very nice to me, and she definitely helped me get like a autographed Pete Townsend Cannot Run the Truth vinyl and all that kind of stuff when she was at the Royal Albert Hall. But she also sent me a video of Roger taking a Q&A, and like you have all these like Who people asking like what's doing the Q&A asking why haven't you played Pure and Easy, and they're yelling Pure and Easy. He's like, are there any other songs? And all three of them are at the same time like Pure and Easy. He's like, well, that's like 1% of you want to hear Pure and Easy. I'm like, no, all of us do. So do you remember any audience reaction to stuff like that there?
I remember when they did Pure and Easy, when Pete was introducing it, he did admit that the night before they'd cocked it up because he was playing in the wrong key. And there is actually a bootleg of the gig I was at. There's a YouTube channel called Clue Boots.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I recently found that the whole gig, so I listened to it again, and I still remembered a lot of the on stage talking as well. And but yeah, it was such a good set list, and they came on for the encore, and it felt like Roger didn't want to go because he kept going into other songs. So they did the Kids Were, I don't know if it's the right order, but they definitely did the Kids Were Alright. And then they did the Johnny Cash medley, which they were doing around that time. And then he suddenly started playing Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand, so they had to do that. Then he started playing Naked Eye, so they had to do that. But you could tell this wasn't planned. And then they finally did My Generation. And I know on the Blues to the Bush CD that version of My Generation is from the night I was at, because I remember that counting distinctly.
Oh, wow.
And I think Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere from that CD's from the night I was at. But I've always wanted to have to know for certain which songs were from that night, but I don't think anyone's ever done a list like that. So
there's a whole Blues to the Bush video that we did, and Bets, were you at that one?
I was on that one. Yeah.
And definitely this gentleman from one of the nicer gentlemen on Who Facebook, Ivan, he sent me his he's done like a breakdown of which song was from which night and which song had overdubs and stuff like that.
I'd love to see that if he's watching and could send it my way.
I can send it to you. I still have it somewhere. I can send it to you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
but just to end what I was saying, so going back to not being a hardcore fan, I've only seen the band 6 times, so I could literally reel off all the times I've seen them, apart from Hyde Park and Shepherd's Bush. Then there were 2 gigs at Wembley Arena I've seen, including in 2000 when they were doing that towards the end of that tour, which was, I know you're a big fan of that era of the band, and
they're just on fire. They're just on fire.
Yeah, I mean that Royal Albert Hall DVD is, I think it's stunning in places. It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
And then I saw them at the Royal Albert Hall when they did Tommy in 2017. And that was another goosebump moment when they did Amazing Journey. And seeing Roger start twirling his mic and Pete start windmilling was just one of the greatest sights I've ever seen. And I was up in the gods. It was a really crap seat. But that moment was just so, it was so good. One of those moments you never forget. And then I saw them at Sandringham 2 years ago. And that's literally, I've only ever seen them 6 times.
You get 3 more than I do. I go see them every 20 years.
Oh, you saw them with Kenny Jones though, so that's pretty
24
cool.
years, 82, 2000, 2022. So every 22 years. It's like locusts or cicadas.
You did see them with Kenny Jones, so that's pretty cool.
I did see them with Kenny. Kenny Jones is actually my Who, and so I got nothing but love for Kenny. And when we get into Who Are You, that there is a Kenny moment, not that comes later, obviously. That definitely I want to sing the praises of Mr. Kenneth Jones. I think he's great. I love Kenny Jones.
And I just want to say, I think our channel has a history of loving Kenny Jones.
We do. We have a pro Kenny agenda, definitely.
Well, it's the same for me because the Kenny Jones era was when I got into the Who, and like I said, I had the Who Rocks America that I'd watch endlessly. And then when I heard they were playing Live Aid, I was only 5, but I was so excited that the Who were going to be playing. So that to me was the Who when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think as I got older, I bought into the idea that Kenny Jones wasn't very good, but as I've gone beyond that, I've realized no, he's a fine drummer, and the Who were just different then. But it's still the Who. It's still part of the history. It all counts, and what they're doing today still counts. And for my podcast, I think I'm happy to talk about any era of the Who because it's all part of their history.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just said, Eminence Front is a lot of people's favorite Who song, and who's the drummer on Eminence Front? I'm curious. Is it Kenny Jones? It's Kenny Jones, right? So, but also, and I've said this before, and I was trying to find a video of it. I was trying to find the reunion with Kenny Jones that Pete and Roger recently did in the recent past, where it was like at a horse, like an equestrian center. Prostate cancer research. Their reunion with Kenny Jones. It was amazing. It was great. And Roger and Pete were really on form that day. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I know.
Okay. Well, you should check it out.
I will.
Oh no, I was just going to say there's a great bit in that what you're talking about, that gig with Kenny Jones, where I think they're doing 5:15, and I think the rest of the band think they're going to end, but Pete decides he wants to carry on and sort of gives this look to everyone that no, we're not stopping. And everyone's sort of looking at each other like, I don't know what's going on, but.
And I believe out of the Who's regular touring band, it's just like Roger and Pete and Kenny, and I think everyone else is kind of like a local musician.
Yeah.
Who are just stoked to be there because I think there's like way more guitars on stages than there needs. So guys could just come up and say they played.
The Who has guitar army.
Yeah. But that's a great video too, and it's I guess maybe they took it down or something. Wait, is this it? It's video watching time. All right, so Kenny's on the other drummerizer. All right, I'm not gonna watch the rest of that.
Okay.
But it just reminds me, like, you were at the nights of my favorite, like the my final perfect version of I Can't Explain was Born at those Shepherd's Bush shows. My favorite live like version of those songs. His guitar tone in that time is just my favorite.
Even just there, just watching that video, and just that opening, I can't explain. I don't know if there's a more exciting piece of music, but
yeah, we recently did our ultimate set lists as one of our recent shows, and all of us, and it was a dream set list. You could do whatever you want, and all three of us were like, yeah, well, it opens with I Can't Explain. So like that's one of the songs.
We all three of us, can't explain.
I think it's love that I sing to you. feel blue for the pain